I'm honored to be speaking to you today, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. David Williams last week talked about how the children play such an important part in the service. And one of the things that has really touched me about this church is how we include people from 1 to 101. You see the children here today with the children's story. Many times we also do greetings to the people at Showalter Villa. And even though they're at a separate location than we are, that they're a part of this church, and they're very important to us. So being able to do that intergenerational thing through worship is really meaningful to me. Well, a couple of months ago, I know through the hustle and bustle of all that we're doing through spring and summer, this video touched me, and it talks about the importance of when things are very busy in your life, the thing with having a grateful day. And so I'd like to play that video for you now.
You think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you. Today. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now. And the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. All that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. Turn a faucet and there is warm water and cold water and drinkable water. A gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.
The three scriptures that were read today are scriptures that have literally been woven throughout my lifetime. And so the first one is that we take refuge, and by taking refuge with God, we have happiness. And I know that every time when I'm dealing with things, the closer I get to God, the happier I am. And that has played a really important part in my life. The next one is on your bulletin, and that is taking refuge, and that God is our protector and our God is looking out for us. Now, the big thing today in the movies is about Marvel, isn't it? That these superheroes are looking after when things are really going bad. But what I want to tell you is we have somebody that's definitely looking out for us, and that's our Creator, and that we can go to Him at any time of trouble, and He's there for us. And then the last one, I've thrown us a loop. I know we're doing Psalms, but I threw in Ephesians also. And the scripture that has been very meaningful in our life is then the one that talks about Jesus Christ blessed us through Christ with every spiritual blessing. That is exciting to think about, that God has given us every spiritual blessing each and every day. And then the other one that hit me when I was reading it is long ago, He decided to adopt us into His family through Jesus Christ. Before any of us were born, God had us in mind and was excited about our being in the future. Well, I'd like to tell you a story. And you see the picture up there. What a good-looking guy, isn't he? This is when I was 10 years of age, and I would go to school, and I was a really happy-go-lucky kid. I loved sports, and I loved school, and I had lots of friends, and life was pretty good. The shirt wasn't really good, but life was really good. Well, one day I went to school, and my fifth grade teacher told me about a time when she was afraid. And this really bothered her, and that was, and for the kids, the word is called rapture. It's where God comes down, and God literally takes everybody up to heaven. And what she was afraid about was that God would come down and take everybody, but she would still be in the field, and God forgot to take her. And so, after hearing that story, I started to think to myself, what if things are not right with me and God? And what if one day when I go to sleep and I wake up, everybody else is gone except me, and maybe my life is not as good with God as it should be? And my parents would tell me again and again, James, that's not something you need to worry about. That you're somebody that has talked to God and has a relationship with God, and so you don't need to worry about that type of thing. But yet I still worried about it. And the worst times for me was many times at night. And so many times what would happen was I would pet my dog at nighttime, and he would give me a little bit of comfort, but then the next thing I looked, and many of you know this, is when you can't get to sleep and you start thinking and it's nighttime, it soon becomes 1 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then I got to go to school in the morning, and here it is, I've been staying up for many hours, and I had this fear. Well, this lasted for me actually almost 2 years. And no matter how much my folks told me that's not something I needed to worry about, finally I kept praying about it, and one day God came to me in a dream. And it was one of those dreams that was incredible, because God literally took me to heaven, or at least in my dream, God took me to heaven. And I was seeing sights and colors and seeing things that were just amazing. But the thing that was probably the most meaningful to me was that God said these words on the Ephesians scripture was, James, you don't need to worry. I've adopted you. And I want to say the same thing to all of you. You don't need to worry. God has adopted you as his children. So I was on cloud 9 for over a year. And still I have those incredible memories when I think about it today. And one of the things that was miraculous about it was my fear kind of went away. And not to say that I don't have fears today, I do, all of us do. But it seemed like the fears were not nearly as intense as they were as when I was a younger child. So life was great. And I had a fantastic high school years. I had wonderful college years. I became the CEO of Freeman Medical Center. And then I met the love of my life, who's right here in front of me. And we got married, and life just couldn't be any better. And those times went on for 6 years. But then one day, the doctor called Julie and I into the medical office and told us that, I'm sorry to tell you, but Julie's kidney is failing. And I remember we were devastated. Here we are, 6 years in marriage, young people, and our life is at a point that it's supposed to be at the pinnacle right now. We're young, and this doctor's telling us that she has kidney failure. And so I remember coming home, and if any of you have had individuals that have where their kidneys are starting to fail, the sad thing is you see your loved one where they don't have the energy anymore. And so many times that was a difficult thing to come home and see that. But once again, like God had said in my dream, that I've adopted you, what we experienced again was that God said again to us, don't worry about those type of things. And not only did God adopt us, but our biological family all said, we're happy to go and get tested to see about the possibility of a kidney. And literally almost every one of our family members went in to check that out. And the beautiful thing was, Julie's youngest sister was the one that was the right match for that. And Julie and I were so touched that here an individual that was in her 20s was willing to give one of her kidneys so that Julie could have life. And that was extremely meaningful to us. And again, we felt that incredible presence of God during that time. Well, then it came to the time where we thought things were going well, and Julie had her kidney. This was back in 1996. And it continues to be a kidney that is very strong. But then we decided it's time to have children. And so we tried for many years, and many of you that have gone through that process, that can be a little bit of a discouraging thing when you're not able to have children. But once again, we sensed from God, what about adoption? And I remember this time when we were with this dream where God said, I adopted you. And what about the possibility of exploring adoption as an option? And so we looked at all the options. We looked about here in the States, and we looked internationally, the possibilities, and we felt we were led to go to China that there were children there that was important to be able to adopt. And so back in 2003 and 2005, after 2 years of putting all the paperwork together, we were excited to be able to go and pick up our children. And there's Hallie. Boy, has she changed, I'll tell you. And what a miracle. And so very much like the day of the person's birth, when you have your own children, when we got this picture, and it wasn't this particular picture, you immediately have an incredible love for this child that's halfway around the world. And then you want to pray for these children. Here's Hallie again. And then Jamie came. Now, one of the things we experienced with this, though, we went to China. Here we were all so excited to be able to adopt these children. But when the children came to us, they weren't as excited to come to us. In fact, for about 24 hours for Hallie, Jamie was a little bit quicker, but Hallie looked pretty forlorn. And I still remember when we took her back to the room, she had this look like, where is all of these people that I know really well, the people that took care of me? And I still remember her putting her little hand through the crib, and Jamie did the same thing. And I would hold her hand, and she would look at me like, who in the world are you? You look like you're somebody from an alien planet. Well, the amazing thing with both of the girls, the very next day, there was a moment. Jamie's was a moment when we were tickling her, and Jamie basically was laughing and laughing, and from that day forward, it was fine. Hallie's was one where she literally grabbed my nose and put it into her mouth. One of her caregivers must have done that with her. And then everything was fine. Well, one of the things I want to tell you is that these girls have been an incredible blessing to our family. And we feel very fortunate that not only we have adopted them, but that they have adopted us. And they've truly been incredible blessings to us. Well then, as many of you know, I moved then, and that happened, we were actually here at the time, but when we moved here, the other big thing that happened is moving here to Heston and being involved in Showalter Villa. And when you're dealing with an organization of that size, there's a lot of stressors. There's a lot of times you're up at night, even though I was sleeping pretty good, but you have these stressors all the time of a lot of individuals that are counting on you. But one of the things, again, that I was so impressed is this church, Showalter Villa, and the Heston community, again, adopted us into your families and showed us this incredible love and compassion. And the one thing that I want to tell you to this congregation is, as you know, here recently, Julie has recently gotten cancer. And the way that all of you have put your arms around us and have given us cards and words of encouragement have been just incredible to Julie and I and our family. And so again, the way you have adopted us has been just an incredible thing for us. And there's really many times where in a week's time, I don't hear somebody come up to us to say, James, we're thinking and praying for you. And that means the world. And I want to encourage you to do that to others too, at all times. Well, last year at this time, we actually went to China at this time. And this is a rickshaw, and Hallie and Jamie are in that rickshaw. And we thought one of the things that would be really neat is for the kids to be able to go back to China, to be able to experience China, the place where they were born. Now, one thing we weren't expecting is, and normally China is very similar to the U.S. The northern part of China is very much like Minnesota and Wisconsin. The southern parts are like Florida. Well, we went to Beijing, and when we were at Beijing, we were having temperatures of 105 and 106. And we were experiencing pretty warm weather at the time, but it was still an incredible experience for us. And then it was the time to come when we were going to take our daughters to the orphanage. And you start to then have a little bit of a worry of this wonderful thing that you've sort of planned out for many months. What kind of experience is that going to be? And how will they feel? Maybe it will be a thud when you go back to the orphanage. And so we looked like this, and you can see that because it was 105, we were sort of dressed down, and we went into the orphanage, and we were blown away. And I had tears similar to what I just did here just a minute ago. We walked into this room, and it was a banquet, and they had presents, and there were all these people there, and there was even television cameras there. And then I immediately thought, I am not dressed appropriate to be here on TV. And they immediately ran to Hallie and gave her a hug, and that was a wonderful feeling. Because again, they were saying, welcome back to the community, that we're adopting you back into the orphanage, and thank you for all your life. And that was something really special. Well, then the fear, and I even remember Jamie came up to me and said, Dad, this is over the top. I wonder if my experience is going to be the same thing. Is it going to be something, because this was just so over the top? And so then I started having a fear as a father of, what if Hallie has this incredible experience and Jamie doesn't? And what we experienced was, there's the present that Hallie got, but what we experienced is the same thing happened for Jamie. They had this big banquet for Jamie. And some of the caregivers for both Jamie and Hallie actually traveled back. Some of them had retired, and they traveled back 2 hours to come back and see them on a bus. And we were just incredibly grateful, and so it was a beautiful experience for us. And here's one of the caregivers that took care of Jamie. And it was one of those really neat things. And again, we felt God's presence of how he has adopted us, and we are God's children. And here they are today then. Well, in closing, I'd like to do a story. And in this story, it's a story I've always loved. It's a story about a wise man. And this wise man would go into the town center, and everybody would come to him, and the wise man would have all of the answers for the people. And so you had these people all over the community that were coming in, and this wise man was answering all of theirs, and people loved the wise man. But one day a little child said, who likes somebody that always has the answers? And so the child said, I'm going to do something to fool this wise man. I'm going to play a trick on him. And so he thought about it, and he thought, what I need to do is I need to capture a bird. And I'm going to take that bird, and I'm going to ask the wise man, Mr. Wise Man, is this bird dead or alive? And if the wise man said the bird is alive, he would give it a quick squeeze and hold a hand out to a dead bird. And if the wise man said the bird is dead, he would let it go, and it would fly off for everyone to see. And so he said, I've got it. There's no way the wise man will know to be able to be right on this one. Well, the day came, and the little child walked up with all these people around and basically said, only like a little child can say, Mr. Wise Man, is this bird dead or is it alive? And the wise man never looked at the bird, but looked only in the eyes of the child and said, it is whatever you want it to be. Today, folks and friends, we have an opportunity every day to look at life with fear or worry, or we have the opportunity to look at life as a blessing every day. A couple of months ago, we were at the Words Banquet at the high school. And Donna Shadler, who has been a long counselor there, did a challenge to the high school kids. And what she said to them was, first of all, I love you guys, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, that you're really important. And don't let people put you down. The second thing she said is, when you wake up in the morning, say a prayer of who can you be a blessing to that day. And she said she's tried that for a year and has literally changed her life. People have come, and she realizes, this is the person I need to be a blessing to today. Well, I've tried that for 3 months, and the same thing has been happening to me, that it seems like God brings those individuals of who I need to be a blessing. And so I would like to encourage all of you, maybe for the next month, to try this. I feel like that's what life is all about, is how we can bless others. Amen.